Every morning begins with a choice to rise with intention and to let the day control you. For most of my life, I didn't understand that. I woke up every day reacting to stress, to problems, messages, to everything that demanded my attention. I'd open my eyes, grab my phone, and instantly step into chaos. My mind wasn't mine. My emotions weren't mine. I was letting the world set the tone for my life. Then one day I realized something simple but powerful. You can't live an extraordinary life with ordinary mornings. If the first thing you do is dive into noise, I decided to take back my mornings, to create a space before the world wakes up. A space for me, my thoughts, my emotions, my energy. That decision didn't just change my mornings, it transformed my entire life. Because how you start your day determines how you live it. You can't build strength if you start from chaos. You can't find joy if you begin from stress. Every great leader, every peak performer, every fulfilled person understands this truth. Your morning is your foundation. When I began this new routine, it wasn't about discipline, it was about freedom. I wanted to feel alive again. I wanted to wake up with energy, purpose, and gratitude instead of anxiety and exhaustion. I did was stop reaching for my phone. The moment you open your phone, you open the world's problems. You step into everyone else's agenda before you've even touched your own. That habit with breath, 3 deep, intentional breaths. It sounds simple, almost too simple, but it's the doorway to presence. Your breath is your power. Every inhale fills you with life. Every exhale releases tension. That's how I remind myself, I'm here, I'm alive, I'm in control. The next thing I did was take control of my mind. I used to let my thoughts run wild, jumping from worry to fear to what is. But the mind is like a muscle. You can train it. You can shape it. So I began what I call mental conditioning. Before my feet hit the ground, I feed my mind with gratitude. About 3 moments, small, vivid, real, that I'm deeply thankful for. The sound of my child's laughter, the cool air on my face after a workout, the smile of a stranger that reminded me there's kindness in the world. Gratitude pulls you out of fear and puts you in power. You can't be angry and grateful at the same time. You can't be stressed and grateful at the same time. Gratitude destroys negativity faster than anything else. After that, I move into visualization. I don't just think about what I want to achieve, I feel it. I imagine the emotions of already having it, the pride, the peace, the fulfillment. The brain doesn't know the difference between what's real and what's vividly imagined. I train it to believe in the reality I'm creating. I see myself speaking with impact, serving others, growing, becoming more. That emotion drives my actions. That vision becomes my standard. When you see it daily, deeply, your subconscious starts working to make it real. But visualization isn't just about success, it's about identity. Who do I need to be to live this day with meaning? Who do I need to be when challenges show up? I ask myself those questions every morning, and the answer is always the same. I need to be present, strong, grateful, and loving. That's my foundation. Once my mind is set, I turn to my body. Because emotion lives in motion, you can't think your way into energy, you have to move your way into it. I jump, stretch, and move with intensity. I change my physiology because I know that how I move determines how I feel. If you wake up tired and move like you're tired, you'll stay tired. But if you move with power, your body follows your command. Your heart pumps faster, your blood flows stronger, your brain lights up, suddenly energy floods your system. You don't wait for it, you create it. That's why I start every morning with movement. It's not about fitness, it's about state. It's about entering a peak state where fear can't touch you and doubt can't stay. It's about setting the tone for the rest of your day. Your body's alive, your mind opens. You think faster, feel stronger, and act bolder. After movement, I feed my spirit. For me, that means silence. Just a few minutes of stillness. No music, no noise. Just awareness. It's a time to connect, to listen, to breathe. It's where I remind myself that life isn't happening to me, it's happening for me. Every challenge, every setback, every blessing is part of the same journey. In that stillness, I find peace that no amount of success can give and no amount of failure can take away. From there, I move into growth. Every morning, my mind's something that inspires or educates me. A few pages of a great book, a powerful podcast, a quote that makes me think deeper. You see, your mind is a garden. If you don't plant flowers, you can't let the world program you with fear and expect to live with confidence. You must be the one to plant ideas of strength, purpose, and growth. Over time, these small actions built momentum. I stopped waking up to problems and started waking up to possibility. I stopped reacting to life and began designing it. That's the power of a morning routine. It's not about perfection, it's about preparation. It's about conditioning yourself to show up as your best no matter what happens next. There are days when I don't feel like doing it. Days when my body's tired or my mind's heavy. But that's when it matters most. Discipline is doing what you said you'd do long after the feeling has faded. The moment you push through resistance, you remind yourself who's in control. You train your brain that you're stronger than your excuses. That single choice to act when you don't feel like it builds more power than any motivation ever could. Every morning now when I wake up, gratitude before I even open my eyes. I don't chase peace anymore. I create it. I don't wait for a good day. I build one. That shift changed everything. My energy, my relationships, my business, my sense of purpose. It didn't happen overnight. It happened day by day, moment by moment, choice by choice. The truth is you don't need hours to transform your life. You need intention. You need consistency. You need that one sacred hour when the world is quiet and your mind is open. That's where transformation begins, not in some distant future, but in the first few minutes after you wake up. Power lives. That's where your life changes. When you take control of your morning, you take control of your destiny. You stop letting the day shape you and start shaping the day. You stop running after peace and start living in it. You realize that success doesn't begin when you achieve something big. It begins when you decide to own every small moment, starting with the first one of the day. That's the power of a morning routine. It's not about what time you wake up. It's about what kind of person wakes up. It's about training your mind and body to rise with strength, gratitude, and certainty. When you do that, your entire life begins to rise with you. When I began committing to my mornings, inside me started to shift. I didn't just notice more energy. I noticed clarity. I started hearing my own thoughts again instead of the endless noise of the world. I realized that most people don't actually live their own lives. They live in reaction to everything around them. They wake up reacting to their phone, reacting to stress, reacting to other people's expectations. They don't start from a place of creation, and that's why they feel lost. But when you take the first hour of your day and dedicate it to you, to your growth, your focus, you begin to take your life back. You stop running and start leading. Every morning, I remind myself that life is a reflection of state. Your state determines your decisions, and your decisions determine your destiny. If you wake up angry, fearful, distracted, that energy becomes your filter for the day. Everything looks difficult, everything feels heavy, but when you wake up grounded and focused, even the challenges feel manageable. That's the difference between being a victim of life and being a creator of it. You can't always control the outside world. You can always control the world within you. So I started mastering the inside world first. I learned that my energy was my most valuable resource, and how I used it to determine how much of it I left by night. Most people waste their energy early, checking notifications, worrying, rushing, and then wonder why they feel drained by noon. But energy isn't just physical, it's emotional, mental, and spiritual. And when you start your day intentionally, you generate it instead of losing it. One of the most powerful parts of my morning ritual became what I call emotional stacking. After my breathing and gratitude practice, I think about moments in my life when I felt powerful, unstoppable, alive. I relive them with all my senses. The more vividly I feel it, the stronger it gets. I stand tall, breathe deeply, move with energy. This isn't pretending, it's conditioning. Because emotion is a habit. If you don't condition positive emotion, life will condition you to live in fear, frustration, or doubt. The mind repeats what it practices, and I choose to practice power. Then I focus on growth. I ask myself one simple question: what can I do today to become better than yesterday? That question keeps me hungry. Growth is the ultimate purpose of life. You can't stay the same and expect joy. You can't repeat the same habits and expect new results. Every day has to be an opportunity to stretch yourself, not to impress others, but to meet the next version of you. Sometimes that means learning something new. Sometimes it means breaking a pattern that no longer serves me. Growth isn't comfortable, but comfort never changed anyone. Movement, gratitude, visualization, these became my anchors. But there's another piece people often overlook: service. Every morning, I remind myself that life is not about me. It's about what I can give. When you live only for yourself, your world becomes small. But when you live to serve, your world expands. You feel more connected, more fulfilled, more alive. So before I start my day, I ask myself, who can I serve today? How can I bring value to someone's life? That simple shift turns an ordinary day into something meaningful. I've met thousands of people over the years, entrepreneurs, athletes, teachers. And one thing I've seen over and over again is this: people who start their day with purpose perform at a higher level. They handle stress differently. They bounce back faster. They don't waste time in negativity because their energy is focused. They've conditioned their mind to lead, not to follow. You can't fake that kind of energy. It's built one morning at a time, one habit at a time. The mind is like a muscle. If you train it to focus on problems, it becomes an expert at finding them. If you train it to focus on solutions, it becomes unstoppable. My mornings became my training ground. I stopped waiting for the world to inspire me. I became my own inspiration. That's what people misunderstand about motivation. Motivation isn't something you find. You create through repetition and intention. Every time I followed my morning ritual, I built a little more momentum, a little more belief. And belief is what creates results. I remember the early days when I struggled to stay consistent. I wake up late, skip the breathing, tell myself I'd do it later. And of course, later never came. But every time I broke that promise to myself, my confidence dropped a little. So I made a rule: never break a promise to myself. If I say I'll do something, I do it not because it's easy, because it builds integrity. When you keep your word to yourself, you begin to trust your own power. You stop needing motivation from the outside because you've built discipline from the inside. Over time, I noticed that my focus changed. Success was about achieving goals, making money, reaching milestones, gaining recognition. But through these mornings, I realized success is a state of being, ability to stay peaceful in chaos, grateful in struggle, and focus in uncertainty. Success isn't about what you get. It's about who you become in the process. And that's what every morning gives me: a chance to become more of who I'm meant to be. I started noticing how different I felt compared to before. I wasn't reacting to stress. I was responding to it. Busy, I was productive. My relationships improved because I wasn't carrying tension into them. My creativity exploded because my mind wasn't cluttered with noise. I felt lighter, freer, more aligned with what mattered. And that's when I understood. A powerful morning doesn't just change your day, it changes your identity. You start living as the person you were always meant to be, not the person life conditioned you to be. But here's the truth, this isn't magic. It's consistency. It's showing up every single day, whether you feel like it or not. The breathing when your mind says, skip it. It's finding gratitude when life feels unfair. It's moving your body when you want to stay still. Transformation happens not all at once, but through tiny, intentional acts repeated with faith. And soon those small acts become who you are. There are days now when I still wake up tired or heavy, everyone else. But the difference is, I don't let that state control me. I know how to shift it. I know that 3 minutes of breath, 10 minutes of gratitude, minutes of movement, that's all it takes to reclaim my power. Because power isn't something you're born with, it's something you generate. And that's what I want people to understand. You don't need to wait for inspiration to change your life. You don't need to wait for perfect circumstances. You have everything you need right now. Your breath, your body, your focus, your intention. Tools I use, you have too. The only difference is whether you choose to use them. The morning routine that transformed my life isn't about some secret formula. It's about self-mastery. It's about choosing how you will show up before the world tells you how to feel. It's about starting your day on your terms, not the world's. And when you do that every day, your life starts to move in a new direction, not by chance, but by choice. Because you can't change your life until you change your habits. And you can't change your habits until you change the way you start your day. When you take that first hour and fill it with purpose, movement, gratitude, and vision, you send a message to your mind and to the universe, I am in charge. I am creating my life. Yeah. I am becoming who I was meant to be. That's where transformation begins. Not with some grand breakthrough, but with the quiet discipline of choosing yourself every single morning. And once you learn to do that, there's nothing in this world that can stop you from rising. There comes a moment in life when you realize that no one is coming to save you. No one will hand you the life you dream of. You have to build it. You have to fight for it. You have to rise every single morning and make it happen through intention, consistency, and discipline. That understanding became the fuel behind my mornings. I stopped waiting for the right time. I stopped waiting to feel ready. I realized that every day I delayed was another day I stayed the same. And I didn't want to stay the same. I wanted to grow, to expand, to live at a level that made me feel alive. That's what a morning routine does. It reconnects you to your power. The world is full of distractions. And if you don't ground yourself early, the entire day being pulled in directions that don't serve you. But when you take ownership of your morning, you send a message to yourself and to life itself. I decide how today goes. I decide how I feel. I decide who I become. That power doesn't come from outside. It's born inside you every single morning when you choose to step into it. I remember the first time I truly felt the shift. I had woken up before sunrise. The world was silent and the air was still. As I started my breathing exercise, I could feel the tension leave my body. My thoughts began to slow down. My heart rate steadied. First time I felt peace, real peace. It wasn't because life was perfect. It wasn't because I had solved all my problems. It was because I had found something more powerful than any problem. That stillness reminded me that happiness isn't something you chase, it's something you cultivate. As the days turned into weeks and the weeks into months, my mornings became sacred. I guarded them fiercely because I realized that how I started my day shaped how I ended it. I stopped rushing. I stopped reacting. I learned to move with intention. Even the smallest acts began to carry purpose. Pouring my coffee, feeling the warmth of the cup, watching the sunrise. Every action became a reminder that life is not just about doing more, it's about being more. When you live reactively, you're in survival mode. You're always fighting fires, solving problems, running from one task to another. But when you live intentionally, you operate from creation. Possibilities where others see problems. You find calm where others feel chaos. That difference is everything. It's what separates people who thrive from people who merely exist. I started noticing the impact everywhere. My focus sharpened. My decisions became clearer. My energy lasted longer. I wasn't drained by midday anymore because my mornings had filled me with strength. Used to trigger me. Stress, deadlines, noise no longer had the same power. I had become the thermostat instead of the thermometer. I no longer absorbed energy from my environment. I set it. One of the biggest lessons I learned through this process is that success is emotional mastery. People think success is about money, fame, or achievement, but that's surface level. True success is the ability to stay centered when everything around you is spinning. It's the ability to keep your peace when life tests your patience. Ability to control your inner world so completely that the outer world can't shake you. That level of control comes from daily conditioning. You can't build it once and expect it to last. You have to strengthen it every morning, just like a muscle. Your morning is your training ground. Every time you wake up and choose to direct your energy, you're rewiring your brain. You're teaching it that you're in command, not your emotions, not your circumstances, not your fears. Over time, that consistency rewrites your identity. You stop being someone who struggles to stay focused and become someone who naturally radiates strength and confidence. You don't have to fake motivation anymore because it's built into your state. But here's the truth that most people avoid transformation requires discomfort. There were mornings when I didn't want to get up, when the bed felt too comfortable and the excuses too convincing. But I reminded myself comfort is the enemy of growth. If you only act when it's easy, you'll never experience change. You must learn to do what's uncomfortable until it becomes natural. That's how you evolve. The mental toughness that separates dreamers from doers. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, you build strength. Every time you push through resistance, you build resilience. Every time you rise before the sun and take control of your mind, you send a message to your subconscious that you're serious about your future. That's how confidence is born, not from luck or talent, but from evidence that you can rely on yourself, that when things get hard, you show up anyway. I realized that I wasn't just building a morning routine. I was building a foundation for my life that reminded me daily of who I wanted to be and what I stood for. When you start every day with that kind of clarity, you stop getting lost in the noise. You stop chasing things that don't matter. You begin to align your actions with your values, and that alignment changes everything. You start attracting the right people, the right opportunities, the right energy. You stop feeling like you're forcing success and start flowing with it, because life rewards clarity. The universe responds to certainty. When you're clear about who you are and what you're committed to, everything begins to align around that. There's also a spiritual power to mornings that few people talk about. Before the world wakes up, before the noise begins, silence that connects you to something greater. Call it God, call it the universe, call it your higher self. Whatever name you give it, it's real. In that stillness, you remember that you're not just surviving another day, you're being given another chance to grow, to love, to serve, to create. That awareness fills you with gratitude that nothing else can give. I've found that when I begin my day in gratitude, the rest of the day unfolds differently. People respond better. Challenges seem smaller. Solutions come easier. Gratitude doesn't change what's outside. It changes what's inside. And that changes everything. You can't attract abundance while living in scarcity. You can't create greatness while focusing on what's missing. Gratitude shifts you from lack to abundance, from fear to faith, from stress to strength. And that's the real reason my morning routine transformed my life. It wasn't just the habits. It was the mindset they created. Every morning became a declaration of who I am, what I'm here to do. I'm not here to drift through life reacting to circumstances. I'm here to design my life with purpose, to live with energy, passion, and joy. That's the standard I set for myself every single day, and that standard became my identity. There's no magic formula. You don't need to copy someone else's routine. You just need to find what grounds you, what elevates you, what reminds you of your power. Maybe it's prayer, meditation, exercise, journaling, or a combination of all. What matters is that you take that time for you intentionally, consistently, and wholeheartedly. Because if you don't take time to build your mind and spirit, the world will tear them down. The morning is your chance to win before the day begins. It's your opportunity to rise above your excuses and step into your potential. Every time you do it, you're not just improving your morning, you're transforming your life. Because greatness isn't built in one big moment. It's built in thousands of small choices, repeated with faith, discipline, and love. That's what my mornings taught me. That's what changed everything. Once I understood that every sunrise was a new beginning, I stopped wasting them. I began using them as fuel. Fuel to become stronger, wiser, and more fulfilled. Because the truth is, how you live your mornings determines how you live your life. And once you learn to master your mornings, there's no limit to what you can create. Every transformation begins in silence. When I started rising early before the world woke up, I found a stillness that I had never felt before. In that silence, I realized how much noise I had allowed into my life, not just from others, but from my own thoughts. Thoughts of doubt, fear, comparison, and regret. Every morning used to start with those voices, and I didn't even notice how they controlled my emotions. But when I began to sit with myself before the day began, here's something deeper, a whisper of strength that had always been there but had been buried under the noise. That voice became my guide. It told me, you're not your past. You are not your fear. You're what you choose to focus on. And every morning I chose to focus on growth. It's incredible how different life feels when you take the time to align your mind before the world asks for your attention. Before I would rush into my day, reacting to everything, traffic, messages, stress. I was in constant survival mode, thinking I was being productive while I was actually just busy. But when I began to center myself first, I noticed something powerful. I stopped chasing time, began to expand. I got more done, not because I worked harder, but because I worked from a place of clarity. My thoughts were organized. My emotions were balanced. I wasn't fighting the day anymore. I was flowing with it. People often underestimate the power of a peaceful morning. Success comes from constant hustle, from always being on the move, from never stopping. But real success begins with alignment. When your body, mind, and spirit are aligned, your actions carry more power. You can work for fewer hours, but produce great results because your energy is clean, focused, and intentional. You can't pour from an empty cup. I began to see my morning as a time to refill it, to charge my spirit before giving myself to the world. There were mornings when I didn't want to move, when the comfort of the bed pulled me back. But I learned that the moments when you least want to rise are the moments that matter most. Those are the moments when discipline is born. Discipline is the bridge between who you are and who you want to be. Every time I pushed through resistance and showed up for myself, I built a little more strength. I realized that motivation might get you started, but discipline keeps you going when motivation fades. Over time, even more profound, my morning routine didn't just affect my productivity, it affected my identity. I started to see myself differently. I wasn't someone who reacted anymore. I was someone who created. I wasn't chasing peace, I was living in it. And when you begin to see yourself as powerful, you start making powerful choices. You stop settling, you stop tolerating mediocrity. You stop letting life happen to you and start happening to life. That's what mastering your mornings does. It rewires how you see yourself and what you believe you're capable of. The body follows the mind, and the mind follows your rituals. When you build rituals that elevate you, your entire life begins to rise with them. I noticed that even on the hardest days, when challenges came, I handled them differently. I didn't react with panic or frustration. I responded with awareness and strength because I had already faced myself that morning. I had already won the first battle of the day, the battle against my own resistance. Once you win that, the rest of the day feels lighter. I remember one morning, standing outside right after my breathing practice, sunrise, I felt a wave of gratitude that was almost overwhelming, not for something material, but for the realization that I was alive, that I had another chance to do something meaningful, to grow, to serve. That feeling changed the way I approached everything. Gratitude makes you rich no matter how much or how little you have. When you wake up and choose gratitude first, you program your brain to look for blessings instead of problems. You begin to see beauty where others see burden. That's how you shift your energy and attract more of what you appreciate. I also learned the importance of feeding my mind with the right thoughts. The world will always try to feed you fear. It will tell you what's wrong, what's missing, what's broken. If you start your day with that, so instead, I began to feed my mind wisdom, a few pages of a great book, a powerful quote, a piece of truth that reminded me who I am. Even 10 minutes of intentional learning can reprogram your mindset. Because what you put into your mind in the morning becomes the lens through which you see the world all day. I made it a rule: no negativity before noon, no news, no gossip, no distraction, just peace, focus, and creation. The more I practiced it, the more control I gained over my emotional state. I began to realize that my emotions were not random. They were the result of my focus. When you focus on problems, you feel fear. When you focus on blessings, you feel gratitude. When you focus on growth, and every morning gives you that choice to focus on what weakens you or what empowers you. Another lesson I discovered was that mornings are the best time to listen to your intuition. That quiet inner voice becomes louder when the noise of the world is silent. Some of my greatest decisions came from moments of stillness early in the morning when my mind was clear and my heart was open. Intuition is wisdom beyond logic. It's that part of you that already knows what's right for your life, but most people can't hear it because they're too distracted. Silence reveals answers that noise hides. Every morning became a conversation between me and my future. I would ask myself, who do I want to be today? What kind of energy do I want to give to others? What would the strongest, peaceful version of me do right now? And then I'd act from that place. That's how you step in alignment with your higher self, not by waiting for confidence, but by behaving as if you already have it. It stops being an act. It becomes your nature. The more I committed to this, the more I realized that mastery is not a single act. It's repetition. The small things with consistency until they become part of who you are. You can't build a strong mind by doing it once. You must train it every morning, just like you train a muscle. The same way your body gets stronger with every workout, your mind gets stronger with every morning of discipline, gratitude, and focus. And the more I trained my mind, the more resilient I became. Life didn't get easier, I just got stronger. Problems didn't disappear, I learned to handle them with peace. Challenges became opportunities to practice what I had been conditioning in my mornings. Beauty of building yourself daily. You stop being afraid of what might happen because you know you can handle whatever comes. Eventually, a point where I couldn't imagine starting my day any other way. The stillness, the breath, the gratitude, the movement, they became as essential as air. I stopped doing it because I was no longer a task, it was a gift I gave myself every day before the world asked anything from me. That's what this routine became for me, a daily act of self-love, a declaration that my peace matters, that my growth matters, that my energy matters, because when you start your day with love for yourself, you move through the world differently. You speak differently, and treat others differently. The world around you begins to mirror the peace within you. And that's when I understood in you. Mornings aren't just the start of the day. They're the foundation of your destiny. How you show up in those first moments determines how you show up in life. Every morning is an invitation to rise higher than your excuses, higher than your past, higher than your fears. It's a chance to remember who you are and what you're capable of. Every sunrise is a reminder that life is offering you another beginning, another opportunity to start fresh, to realign, to become more. And when you learn to embrace the gift with gratitude and discipline, stop surviving your days. You start mastering them. You stop waiting for miracles. You start creating them, because your mornings aren't just a routine. They're a reflection of your future. Once you understand that everything changes, there's a power that comes from consistency, a quiet confidence that builds when you keep showing up for yourself day after day. The morning routine that changed my life didn't work because of some magical formula. It worked because I made a promise to myself and refused to break it. Every morning became a moment of truth. Would I give into comfort or would I choose growth? Would I be led by my excuses or by my purpose? Those little decisions made in silence before the world wakes up are what shape your destiny. That's where real transformation happens, not in the grand gestures, but in the small unseen moments when no one is watching and you decide to rise anyway. I began to understand that how you start your day determines how you live your life. You start at rushed, distracted, and reactive. Your whole day becomes a reflection of that chaos. But if you start at calm and intentional, everything else flows from that state of power. The energy you create in the morning ripples through every conversation, every task, every challenge. It's not about perfection. It's about presence. It's about being awake to your choices instead of running on autopilot. There were mornings when the temptation to go back to old habits was strong, to pick up my phone first to scroll, compared to consume. But I realized that every time I let the world enter my mind before I did, I gave my peace away. So I created a rule: no external put before internal alignment. No messages, no screens, no opinions until I had centered myself. Because how could I lead my life if I was already being led by distraction? The world will always try to claim your attention, but your attention is your power. And the person who controls their focus controls their future. Once I mastered that discipline, something shifted. I began to carry a deeper sense of peace into my days, even when things went wrong. And they did. I didn't lose myself in frustration. I had already set the tone. I had already connected to something stronger than circumstance. That's what a strong morning routine does. It grounds you in a state of peace that nothing outside can easily shake. It gives you emotional armor, but not the kind that makes you cold or distant. It's the kind that allows you to stay warm, strong, even when life tests you. One of the most powerful parts of my mornings became movement. It wasn't about working out for appearance. It was about awakening my body and connecting it to my mind. There's something sacred about moving your body with intention early in the day. It tells your mind, I'm alive. It's like pressing a reset button on your entire system. Every stretch, every breath, every drop of sweat became a reminder that I was in control of my energy. And that realization blended everything else I did. I also began practicing something Tony Robbins calls priming, a mix of breath work, gratitude, visualization, and intention. It sounds simple, but it changed everything. With each deep breath, I reminded myself that life itself is a gift. With gratitude, I tuned into abundance instead of lack. With visualization, I saw my goals as already achieved, felt them as real, and aligned my actions with that feeling. The human brain doesn't differentiate between imagination and reality. What you emotionally experience becomes your mental programming. So each morning, literally reprogramming my mind to believe in the best possible version of my life. As the days turned into months, I realized how different I felt: lighter, sharper, more centered. What surprised me most was how the people around me began to change too. Not because they were doing what I was doing, but because I had changed my energy. People respond to your frequency more than your words. When you are grounded, others feel it. When you radiate peace and purpose, you inspire without trying. That's the beauty of transformation. It doesn't demand attention, it attracts it. One morning, I remember sitting in complete silence after my routine, no music, no noise, just breath. It hit me that for most of my life, I had been running from stillness, afraid of what I might find there. But in that silence, I didn't find fear, I found truth. The truth that everything I had been searching for, happiness, peace, fulfillment, wasn't something out there. It was something I could generate within myself every morning. That realization was freedom. I stopped chasing and started creating. It's easy to underestimate the compound power of small habits. A few minutes of gratitude, a few minutes of movement, a minutes of focus, done consistently, can completely transform your emotional state, your body, your relationships, and your destiny. The secret isn't intensity, it's consistency. Anyone can be motivated for a day, but transformation belongs to the disciplined. Every sunrise gives you a chance to recommit to that discipline, to build the person you promised yourself you would become. Over time, I started to notice that I no longer needed an alarm. My body woke up naturally, almost eager to begin. That's what happens when your routine becomes aligned with your purpose. It stops feeling like effort and starts feeling like rhythm. You don't push yourself anymore, you flow. You don't force your day, you got it. That's the quiet power of creating your mornings with intention. You begin to live from design instead of default. There were still challenges, of course. There were mornings filled with doubt, mornings where I didn't feel like enough, mornings when the weight of life felt heavy. But that's when the routine became my anchor. It reminded me that feelings are temporary, but identity is chosen. And every time I showed up anyway, I was proving to myself that I could rise above my emotions. You don't overcome weakness by avoiding it. You overcome it by facing it consistently until it loses its power over you. The most surprising outcome of this journey wasn't external success, though that came naturally. It was the internal calm I developed. The peace that comes from knowing that no matter what the day brings, I can handle it. Because I've already met myself in the quiet. I've already done the hard part, winning the battle within. That's what most people miss is success isn't about what happens during the day. It's about how you prepare for it. When you own your mornings, you own your emotions. When you own your emotions, you own your life. And as I look back now, I see how much can change when you simply decide to show up for yourself first. The morning is not about doing more. It's about becoming more. It's not about having control over time. It's about having control over yourself. When you wake up with purpose, gratitude, and peace, you stop reacting to life and start leading it. You begin to live each day as if it matters. because it does. Every sunrise is a reminder that you have another chance to grow, to rise to love, and to become the person you were always meant to be. That's the power of the morning. It's not just the start of your day, the foundation of your destiny. When you claim that first hour, you're declaring to the universe that your energy, your focus, and your peace matter. You stop being a passenger in your own story and become the author again. And in that space of awareness, discipline, and gratitude, everything you've ever dreamed of starts to align, not by chance, but by choice.